All right, today is a special day because a couple of you have asked me to make this. Look at all these apples. We are making apple wine and we're gonna make some caramel wine all in the same batch. I can't wait for you to see this. What do you think?
I can't wait. I'm very excited.
She's eyeing up them apples.
The caramel apples.
Just don't stop. You just move, baby. Move any way you need. How do you do it, darling? You got me on.
All right, this video is way overdue. Look at these apples. These were called, what were these called? Ginger apples. But what you want to use a tart apple. That makes the best wine. But if you can't find them, you can use anything. These are tart. And look what we got here. What is this?
Caramel apple wine.
This is caramel apple wine. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to have some caramel apples. We're going to do 2 batches here. We're doing a regular apple. And then we're going to do a caramel. What are you doing? That was for the wine.
We have more.
Oh, well. We'll get into this. Apple wine, it's going to be great. And the caramel apple wine is going to be over the top. And I just can't. Look how fresh these are. These are called orchard apples. Sometimes you can just pick them off the side of the street. That's what we're making, tart wine. Make sure you
Like, subscribe, and click that notification bell.
Oh, yeah. I don't want the end. She's going to give me the end of the apple.
I wish she was going to have you bite right into the core.
And this is the ingredients you need to make this apple wine. We're going to go over each one of these individually as we go through this video. All right, and we're going to even make this more apple-y, flavorful by adding some 100% apple juice. Because just in case we don't get enough flavor out of these apples, we'll definitely have this to add more flavor. So again, I got a whole video of just making wine from juice. You want to make sure there's no sulfites in this juice. It's 100%. So that's what you want, right?
Right.
The link to making the juice wine is going to be in the description. Make sure you check out that video and all these videos. But let's get into washing these apples, get them cut up, everything sanitized. All right, and for this recipe, you gotta have extra fruit, extra apples. When you're making apple or pear or anything that's a harder consistency, you need more. Again, I'm gonna have the recipe in the description for this. But remember when we were making some of the berry wine, you wanted 3 to 4 pounds per gallon? We need to up that. We need 5 to 6 pounds of apples for every gallon. So I'm gonna make a 3-gallon batch. What is that? 5 times, that's 15. Wait, 6 times. Anyway, I got 20 pounds of apples. That's what we're gonna use, 20 pounds. Stop recording. Did you hear me? All right, it is time to get these apples washed. You want to make sure you're washing these apples and get any debris or dirt that might be on these things. So get them in the sink and wash them. And then we'll cut some of the bad spots out and we'll core them because you don't want to use the seeds for this. All right, we got all these apples washed. Time for the next step. All right, and like I said, you got to sanitize your equipment. I love Star San. Here we got a 1/2 ounce measured out already. We're gonna dump that in. And to this, we're gonna add 2.5 gallons of warm water. And then we're just gonna throw the equipment in there. That's all there is to it. Oh, and you know I love a squirt bottle. You want to fill that squirt bottle up because we will use that every day when we're stirring this must up. Don't forget your airlock. You got to have that to make wine. All right, and for this batch of apple wine, you want 2 pounds of sugar for every gallon of wine. So 2 times 3, we want 6 pounds of sugar. There's 5. And that is perfect. All right, now we can add this sugar to our stock pot and get this cooking. There's our 6 pounds of sugar. We're gonna put in equal parts of water and get this dissolved. All right, here we're gonna add our water. Remember, this is not an exact measurement. That comes when we measure the ABV, because remember, we got apple juice to put in here and probably additional water. So what we're trying to do here is just get this dissolved where the water turns clear, and we're not trying to boil this. Remember, we just want to dissolve this till you're not hearing that sugar scrape anymore. Right before boiling point is when we'll stop this. All right, this is what you're looking for. You see how clear that is? That's when you know it's done. It's time to shut off the heat and let this cool to room temperature. This is where the fun starts. Here's why I use this spray bottle. We want to sanitize all our containers. I got one, and I'm probably gonna need a second one. So let's get these sanitized before we start chopping these apples. Let's get to cutting some apples. We want to sanitize our board just like this. Keep everything, all the germs out. So what you want to do is we want to try and get these seeds out of here if we can. So we're just going to core all these apples, and we'll just cut then each individual one up into about thirds. Discard the middle piece because that's got the seeds in. If we can get those out, we want to try. But again, if you get a couple in, it's no big deal. Now, what we're going to do is cut each piece into about thirds or quarters, depending on the size of your apple. So here we go. Let's get started on all these apples. All right, and also, you see some of these bad spots. If you see any bad spots in your apple, make sure you're cutting those out. So we got some bruising on this particular apple, and we're gonna just find that and cut that out. You don't want any bruised apples or anything that might cause mold or issues in your wine. Just cut it out and get rid of it. And remember, I got links to everything you're gonna see in this video down in the description. So if you need any of the additives or the supplies, go in the description and click the affiliated links. All right, we just got done peeling these apples.
Cutting them. We didn't peel them.
We didn't peel them. All right, I didn't actually cut them either. Who cut them?
Our daughter. Yep.
She's over there. She's taking a break. She's exhausted. But look at all these apples. This, again, that's about 18 pounds, 19 pounds after we cored them all. But we're ready to get to the next step. You want to taste one?
No.
All right, I will. All right, we're ready to get our additives in here. We're going to start with the Camden tablets because that's going to sanitize your wine. So we want 1 tablet for each gallon. So for 3 gallons, we want 3 of these. Crushed between 2 spoons is the easiest way to do it. All right, the next thing we want to add is yeast nutrient. We want a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So we want 3 1/2 teaspoons. And the next thing is pectic enzyme. We want 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So 3 1/2 teaspoons of the pectic enzyme. The next thing is wine tannin. Do not miss wine tannin. That's just going to give your wine depth and add an additional level of flavor. So we want a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So we're going to put 3 of these in here. Now remember, I like to put these additives in the bottom of my bucket, but the next thing is going to be acid blend. You can put these additives after you put your fruit in, but I just like to put it at the bottom. That's always how I've done it. We're going to put a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So that is 3 of these things. All right, honey, do you know what's next?
The bag.
The bag. And in that bag, we're going to put
The apples.
the apples. This is part of the fun of making wine. We've got the sanitized bag. And we're just going to drape that over this bucket. Remember, this sanitizer is safe. So you want to use it as a wet sanitizer. So now she's going to start by putting some of them apples in, and I'm just going to try and hold it here a little bit. And then once she gets so far, we will just dump that whole thing in there. Are you going to get any in the bucket?
If I had a better scooper.
We don't have a budget on this channel like a lot of these YouTubers. So if you're not subscribed, please do.
Help us get a better scooper.
All right, you think you can dump the rest?
Yeah, it's going to be heavy though.
It's not real heavy. I was able to lift it with one hand.
Okay.
Just don't make a mess.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. That is some serious apples in there.
Well, we have our sanitized sink.
Yeah, there we go. That's a lot of apples. Remember, this is a 6-gallon bucket I got here, and it filled up about half of it. All right, I got some sanitized twist ties here. We're gonna just put these around because it's just gonna make it easier to get the bag out, and we're gonna stir this each day. And with this, you can make sure no fruit is gonna get out of this bag. I'll put an extra on here. And we'll cut off these ends because they'll just get in our way. All right, now it's time to get some other stuff in this bucket. We want to start with this 100% apple juice. So this, again, it's just going to give us more apple flavor. Rather than add water, just add some good old-fashioned apple juice. You want to make sure it doesn't have any sulfites or sulfates, which are preservatives. So here we go. Get that in the bucket. Oh, do you smell that? It smells great, doesn't it, hon?
Yeah.
All right, the next thing, remember that sugar water we had on the stove? Well, it's cooled to room temperature. We put it in some simpler containers here, and now we just want to add all this sugar water to this bucket. And then we'll add additional water, and we'll check the alcohol by volume, ABV. But we really want to see that potential, where we're going to be at. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add some water in here, because I can tell you from experience, that water level is probably going to come up to about that rim. So we will add some water, and we will just check the ABV with our hydrometer. If you need experience on using that hydrometer, again, I'll have a link. Show you how to use that hydrometer. So we're going to add a little water, and then we're going to test this. I think we're going to need a little more water though. All right, we're going to add a little more water because I know it's not up to the level where we can start testing this, but it is getting close. So I think put this in and we'll take our reading. All right, now what we want to do is remember, we got all those chemicals at the bottom of this. We're going to try and reach down there and get this stirred in before we take our reading. Now remember, we'll be stirring this every day for many days, so we will get all this mixed in. And you can really smell the apples now. All right, I got it stirred up here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some wine out of here so we can put it in that cylinder and take a reading. So there we go, we got that. And we wanna just get enough in to float our hydrometer in. Here's the hydrometer. We're just gonna drop this in here, and we're looking for the potential alcohol side. Oh man, this could be perfect where it's at. Wow, that's exactly at 12%. I don't get that lucky. Usually I gotta keep adding water a little at a time. So that's it. Again, we're gonna be stirring this for the next 7 to 10 days. That is critical because when we put the yeast in here 24 hours from now, we're gonna need to stir it to get some oxygen in here. So that's it, we're stirring. We're gonna get it covered, get our airlock, and come back here in 24 hours and add our yeast. So we want to sanitize our lid like this, and we'll just get this on here. All right, here it is. This is the airlock. If you have this type, usually there's a line. You want to make sure that's about in the middle. I think I got a little bit in here, but we'll adjust that and get this on here. And what we'll do is come back and add the yeast in 24 hours. We don't want to do that right now because it would just kill the yeast with all those additives we put in there. So talk to you in 24. So it's been exactly 24 hours. We want to get this bucket opened up and get it stirred a little bit and get our yeast in. What you want to do is keep your fruit moist. You want to keep pushing this down each day. And that's, oh man, it smells really good. So that's it. What I'm going to do now is put the yeast in here. And all we want to do is sprinkle it in. There is no need to stir this yeast in at this point. I might have to because of how much fruit's in here though. So here we got 1 packet of yeast. I'm just gonna put that in anywhere I see liquid. And like I said, normally I don't stir this in, but because there's so much fruit, because we have to add more because it's apples, I am just gonna stir it in a little bit. And then that's gonna be it. We're gonna cover this up, and in 24 hours, we'll come back again and we will stir this again every day for the next 7 to 10 days while fermentation is going. Get the lid back on. All right, so it's been 24 hours and this thing's already started bubbling, which means we should see some foam in here. And again, you want to keep your fruit moist. And you can see that yeast is starting to create some foam there. That's what we want. That's fermentation starting up. And that's a good thing. Oxygen in this stage is very important. Want to stir this every day. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of this. Just know that it smells amazing. And that's what you want to see, some foam in here. That's all you need to do. Let's get the lid back on. All right, it's been 48 hours. Look at this thing bubbling. It's going crazy. We're ready to get this open and get it stirred. But 48 hours, you can see that yeast is working. Oh my goodness, look at all that foam. This is what you want to see. Look at that. These apples are going crazy. See, we're introducing some oxygen here. And that's what this yeast wants right now, to get activated like this. I like to scrape the sides here where I can see some fruit or some yeast and get that back down in there where it belongs. It smells like apple pie. As you can see, we are making one. Like I said, I'm not going to bore you with all this, but this is looking like perfection. Let's get the lid back on. And remember, everything I'm touching is sanitized. All right, it's been exactly 10 days. You can see my airlock here. Hopefully you can see it. It's hardly bubbling, maybe once every minute to 30 seconds. I know it's probably ready, but we want to test this to make sure it's ready to get in our sanitized carboy. So let's get this lid open and get it racked. Now remember, we started off at a potential alcohol somewhere between 12.5%. So what that means is when I float this hydrometer in, if it goes all the way down to this 1.0, we're gonna be at 12 to 12.5%. If it's a little off, there's all kinds of calculators out there. You can tell exactly what it is. But from experience, I guarantee you this is gonna sink all the way to the bottom. All right, so I thought I'd show you a better way than showing you in the bucket here, but I got my hydrometer. I put some in my sanitized flask here, and we'll show you a little bit of a better shot here, where this thing's gonna go down to the 1.0 level. It's exactly 1.0. Everything is sanitized. I gotta get the racking cane because now I got my 3-gallon sanitized carboy down here. Let's get the racking cane in. Sanitized racking cane. And we're just gonna put this in and we'll put the hose down in our bottle. We wanna put it down as far as we can because we don't wanna splash this at all. And then we'll just get this siphon going. Now, if you remember, there's gonna be dead yeast at the bottom. You don't wanna stir it at this stage. And we'll let gravity take the wine out of this apple in here. And then we'll just kind of lift the bag up as we go and just let it drip. You don't wanna squeeze it because you're just gonna put unnecessary pulp in there. And just look at this. This is apple wine. And it's gonna be caramel apple wine too. But you gotta wait till the next video to show you how we put this caramel in here. It's gonna be a great part too, don't miss it. Look at the color of this apple wine. Look at these, this apple wine, caramel wine. But remember, I followed the 3-gallon recipe, but I got some extra. So if you can, These little quart-sized things, I've got links in the description for these, come in handy because when this starts to settle and I put some bentonite in, this level is going to go down a little bit more and I'll have enough to top it off because everybody knows that's a problem a lot of times, but hopefully I'll get enough just to top it off and keep it at this level that I want. This is about where you want it, 2 or 3 inches down from your airlock. Now all we got to do is wait for 30 to 45 days. You don't want to touch this. Make sure you're getting your airlocks filled with water, which I got to do yet, to the proper level, and let this sit in a dark place. And make sure you're sticking around for part 2 because that is when we're going to add that caramel sauce to make our caramel apple wine. We'll probably take about half of this and make apple wine, and the rest will be caramel apple wine. I already got people asking for this. It is Christmas time. I don't know if it'll be done in time, but I'll make sure my friends get some of the caramel apple wine. But I've had it before. It's amazing. You got to try this. Until next time, part 2, make sure you're clicking that like and subscribe button and have a great weekend.
Just move.